It was a Tuesday night and my hands were still stained with ink from the lab. I had just finished cross-checking protein markers on the latest cancer trial samples. Another long day in a long line of long days. The kind where exhaustion feels like a second skin. The kind where silence is welcome. Then my phone rang. The name on the screen hit me like a fist, Mom. I considered letting it go to voicemail. I'd gotten good at that over the years, dodging calls, ducking family drama, telling myself I was too busy to engage. But something made me swipe to answer. Her voice came through like it always did, crackling with urgency, dripping with guilt. Rachel needs you. She's dying. Just like that. No, hello, no, how are you? Straight to the gut. Angelina, please. She has leukemia. It's aggressive. You're her only match. You're her only hope. I said nothing at first. My pen was still hovering above a checkbox on the patient review form. The silence on my end wasn't just from shock. It was memory flashes of board meetings, news articles, cold stares from colleagues, flashes of Rachel. Even her name made my hand tremble. What do you want from me? I asked. To save your sister. That word sister burned in my ears. My sister. The same Rachel who had weaponized a fake ethics scandal against me. The same Rachel who had convinced our department head that I was falsifying data. The same Rachel who, with a few well-timed lies and forged emails, had turned my rising career into ash. Now she needed me, not for forgiveness, not for love, just survival. Funny how life works. I'll think about it, I said, and hung up before she could plead. I sat there for a moment, the antiseptic scent of my office suddenly nauseating. Then I stood, grabbed my coat and left before the walls could collapse in on me. Outside, I nearly collided with Harper, one of the only people who'd stayed in my corner after everything. Whoa, slow down, she said, steadying me. You okay? Rachel's sick, I replied flatly. They want my bone marrow. Her expression darkened immediately. After everything she did to you, that same Rachel. The very same. I leaned against the wall, suddenly feeling a decade older. Harper didn't say anything at first. She didn't need to. She knew the story. She'd seen the emails. She'd held my hand when I lost my grant. She was there when my research lab was shuttered. She knew what Rachel had done. As if summoned by the devil herself, my phone buzzed again. This time, a text. Mom, I'm coming to your office. We need to talk. I sighed and held the phone out to Harper. Speak of the devil. Want me to stay? No, this is something I need to do alone. 20 minutes later, Mum burst through the door like a storm. She looked tired. Older. More grey than blonde now, though still trying to fake youth with lipstick and pearls. In her hands, a manila envelope thick with paperwork. These are Rachel's medical records, she said without so much as a greeting. The procedure's safe. You'll recover quickly. You'll be back at work in a week. I picked up one of the pages and glanced at it. I wasn't really reading. Hello to you too, Mom. Don't be difficult, she snapped. This is your sister's life. I set the paper down slowly. Interesting. When it was my life, my career, you didn't seem concerned. That again. She waved her hand dismissively. You're still obsessed with those ridiculous accusations Rachel would never. I have proof, I said, my voice sharp and flat. That stopped her cold. Emails, witness statements, even a recorded conversation between her and Tatum. Want to hear it? She paled slightly but recovered. That's all in the past. Not to me, not when she's asking for my bone marrow. I walked to my filing cabinet and pulled out a folder. Thick, labeled DNA evidence. I set it on the desk in front of her. What's that? She asked, her voice suddenly small. Insurance, I replied. Against exactly this kind of conversation. Her hands began to tremble. She reached for Rachel's medical records as if gathering armor. Your sister is dying, Angelina. Is she my sister? She blinked. What are you talking about? I opened the folder, revealing the DNA test I'd commissioned after Rachel's betrayal. She's not my biological sister. We don't share the same father. The silence in the room went from heavy to deafening. That's ridiculous, Mom whispered. Is it want to take a look? Her eyes were locked on the papers like a mouse cornered by a cat. You really went behind my back to get this. You forced me to. You've lied before. I needed the truth. I leaned back in my chair, folding my hands calmly. You'll have my answer in 3 days. 3 days, she hissed. Think carefully about what secrets you're willing to have exposed. She left without another word, her heels echoing like gunshots down the hallway. When she was gone, I opened the folder again and stared at the results. Black and white, clear as day. Rachel wasn't my sister, and suddenly everything made sense. I spent that night in a restless loop of old memories and cold calculations. Sleep came in fragments, each one broken by the sound of my own heartbeat pounding against the walls of my chest. The next morning, the lab felt sterile in a way I hadn't noticed before. Or maybe I was just noticing everything now. Harper brought coffee, but I barely touched it. "You're thinking about going, aren't you?" she asked. I didn't answer at first. "I need to see her," I finally said, face to face. The hospital smelled like false hope and lemon-scented cleaner. I walked the long hallway with my blazer smoothed my mind, rehearsing words I hadn't decided to say yet. Rachel's room was near the end. Private, of course, quiet, the kind of silence money can buy. She was scrolling on her phone when I stepped in. Even now, pale gaunt, hooked up to machines, she looked polished. A silk robe matched perfectly with her hospital-issue pajamas. Always curated, always calculated. "Well, look who finally decided to show up," she said, not even bothering to look at me. "Come to play the martyr." "No," I replied. "I came to give you my answer in person." That got her attention. Her phone hit the side table with a soft thunk. "And, no," she blinked. "You're not serious." "Dead serious." Her practiced smile slipped. "You'd really let me die after everything." "You mean after the research scandal? After you convinced Tatum to lie? After you turned Lamar against me with doctored photos and fake texts?" I moved a step closer but still kept a wall between us. "Yes, I would." She opened her mouth, probably to twist the story into something more palatable, but I cut her off. "Save the performance. I'm not here to play your foil anymore." "You're still bitter about that. It was years ago." I laughed, a short, sharp thing that didn't feel like mine. "Bitter, no. I'm awake now." Her eyes narrowed. "So this is revenge?" "No, this is justice." Rachel swung her legs over the side of the bed, wincing slightly. Even her pain was theatrical. "Mom always said you'd hold grudges. Mom always said a lot of things. Like how we were sisters. Turns out even that was a lie." Her expression flickered, a mask cracking. "What do you mean?" "Ask her." I turned to leave but stopped at the door. "You want my bone marrow, earn it." "How?" "Confess. Everything. The lies. The sabotage. The campaign against me. Write it down, sign it, get it notarized. Then, maybe we'll talk. You'd let me die over your career. I'd let you die for never being accountable. Not once." I walked out with my head high, even if my hands were shaking. Back at my apartment, Harper was already deep into research. "You're not going to believe this," she said without looking up from her laptop. "Rachel's DNA markers, they trace back to Mexico. Dad was Swedish-American, pale as printer paper, which means the rest is your mom." She turned her screen toward me. Central Hospital staff records from the early 90s. There was one doctor in her department with Mexican heritage. She pointed at the name, Dr. Eduardo Ferguson. I sat down stunned. "Find him." Harper's eyes lit up with something like triumph. "Already did. Chief of surgery in Phoenix. Never married. No kids. At least none he knows about." My phone buzzed again. A text from Lamar, my ex. "Heard about Rachel. Need to talk. It's important." The past wasn't just knocking. It was kicking down the door. Penny's coffee hadn't changed. Same mismatched mugs. Same chalkboard menu. I spotted Lamar at our old booth. He looked good. Better than I remembered. Success suited him. "Thanks for meeting me," he said. "I should have said all this a long time ago." "Go on." He fidgeted with his coffee before meeting my eyes. "Rachel came to me the week before we broke up. Said you were cheating on me with Mike. Had pictures, stories. She was convincing." I stared at him. "You believed her?" "At the time I didn't want to, but she made it believable. Said you and Mike were sneaking around for months. That photo, that was the investor meeting. Mike was congratulating me on getting you the funding approval." Lamar's face crumpled. "I know. He told me the truth last year. I should have come clean then, but you had already moved on. Married someone else." I stared down at my coffee. "She really wanted everything I had. She even contacted me last week," he added. "Said she was sick, needed help, asked if I'd reconsider being with her." I laughed without humor. "While asking me for bone marrow. Of course she did." Another buzz, another text, this time from Mom. "Please call. We need to talk about what you told Rachel. Still playing the victim, Lamar said, glancing at my phone. Always. That night, Harper traced Rachel's DNA trail back even further. The evidence was clear. Rachel wasn't my sister, not by blood. And Eduardo Ferguson, he had unknowingly walked away from a child he never knew existed. When I called Mom to confront her again, she tried to deflect. You don't understand. No, I snapped. You don't understand. I'm done being the family punching bag. I'm done watching Rachel get everything while I get punished for existing. There was a pause on the line, then a whisper. What do you want? I took a long breath. I want you to suffer the way you made me suffer. I want Rachel to feel what it's like when everything falls apart. Angelina, check your email. I'm sending you the full DNA report. I suggest you read it before I send it to Eduardo. I hung up and turned to Harper. Did you get his contact info? Phone, email, office address, all of it. Perfect. I opened the report, the line reading probability of paternity 0% shining like a neon sign of truth. Now, I said, a dark smile spreading across my face, let the games begin. I chose my childhood home for the showdown. There was something fitting, something poetic about confronting the ghosts where they were first summoned. The house still smelled faintly of furniture polish and control. Every photo on the wall was a carefully curated lie. Mom was already there arranging cookies no one would eat. Rachel sat on the couch, wrapped in a cashmere blanket, her skin more sallow, her wrists thinner. She still had her signature pearl earrings on, always playing the part. You're early, Mom said, her voice trying for normal. It failed. I'm right on time, I replied, placing a leather briefcase on the table. Let's begin. Begin what Rachel asked. Her voice was raspier now, but the defiance remained. Your little power play. No, your confession. I opened the case and pulled out 2 sets of documents, placing them with slow precision on the table. One for each of you. Mom sat heavily in her chair, her face drained of all color. She glanced at the documents like they were ticking bombs. Angelina, please, let's talk privately. Like you talked privately about Rachel's real father for 32 years, I asked. No, those days are over. The doorbell rang. Who's that? Mom flinched. Harper, I said. She's here to witness this. I opened the door, letting Harper in. She gave them both a tight professional nod before taking a seat near the window. Now then, I continued. Let's talk terms. Terms, Rachel scoffed. You're treating this like a business deal. Isn't that what you did to my life? My research, my relationship. I turned toward her slowly, letting each word cut its path. You told Lamar I was cheating. You forged emails. You got Tatum to lie to the university board. Rachel tried to muster another eye roll, but it faltered. She looked weak, scared. I was desperate, she whispered. So was I, Rachel, I said softly. When I saw my career disintegrate in front of my eyes while you and Mom watched from the sidelines. You don't know what it's like. To be desperate, I snapped. Try begging for funding while your name is trending for misconduct. Try reading about your fall from grace in the journal you once dreamed of publishing in. Mom stood suddenly, her hand shaking. Enough. We're here to talk about the bone marrow. No, I said. We're here because you both want something from me, but I want something first. I reached into my case again and pulled out a recorder, placing it on the table with a quiet click. Let's talk about Eduardo Ferguson. The effect was instant. Mom dropped the plate she'd been holding. China exploded across the floor. Crumbs scattered like shrapnel. How did you find him? She breathed. Wasn't hard. Chief of surgery in Phoenix. Never married. No kids until now. Rachel's eyes darted between us. She looked like she wanted to disappear. Mom, who is she talking about? Your father, I said. That's not true, Rachel whispered. Dad. Was mine, I interrupted. Not yours. Ask her. Silence swallowed the room. Even the old grandfather clock, the one Dad restored himself, seemed to pause. Mom sank into the armchair. I did what I had to do. No, I said, voice cold. You did what was easiest. My phone buzzed. Harper checked hers too and gave me a nod. Eduardo just checked into the Marriott downtown, I announced. He's interested in meeting his daughter. Mom looked like she might faint. Here's how this works. I continued pushing the documents forward. Rachel, you sign a full confession emails, lies, the Tatum conspiracy. Mom, you sign this admitting to the affair paternity fraud and the manipulation you orchestrated. And if we do, Rachel asked, her voice barely above a whisper, then I'll consider the bone marrow donation. Consider, she echoed. I'm done offering without conditions. You have until tomorrow. You'd really let her die, Mom asked. To prove a point, you taught me how I said rising from my chair. Think of this as your final lesson to me. Rachel's voice stopped me as I reached the door. Wait, what does he look like? I paused. Sign the papers, find out. Outside, Harper exhaled slowly. That was intense. It's not over yet, I said, unlocking my car. They'll need all night to decide. You're really going to make them sweat. They made me sweat for years. I glanced back at the house. Mom was at the window clutching the curtain like a lifeline. Besides, I added, Eduardo's flight doesn't actually land until tomorrow morning. You're scary sometimes, Harper said. I learned from the best. As we pulled away, I watched the house shrink in my rearview mirror. Let's see how long they last before they break. End of part 3. Would you like to continue directly with part 4? The final unraveling. The church visit, Eduardo's confrontation, and Rachel's near-death turning point. Or, do you want prompts for image illustrations, thumbnails, or metadata for YouTube before we proceed? Let me know how you want to pace it. Banjanoi partiri. ChatGPT Janoi, of course. Here's part 4, the final unraveling, a deeply emotional continuation where revelations compound, secrets collapse, and the past catches up with every character. The tone intensifies, but stays grounded in first-person fair-use compliant storytelling with fresh layers of introspection, new dialogue, and cultural resonance. Part 4. The final unraveling. The old church hadn't changed. Same red brick, same white trim. Same stained glass that filtered the morning light like colored memories. I sat in my car across the street, watching Father Michael tend to his rose garden, just as he had every Tuesday morning since I was 10. It was strange how comfort and betrayal could live in the same place. My phone buzzed. Harper again. Eduardo's plane landed. He's asking questions, a lot of them. Meeting in 30 minutes. I stepped out of the car, the air sharp with the scent of early fall. Father Michael looked up, and for a second I saw the surprise flicker in his eyes. Angelina, he asked, standing slowly. Is that really you? Hello, Father. He smiled gently. The same warm, harmless smile I remembered from Sunday school. Still fighting those aphids. Some battles never end, he said with a chuckle. What brings you here? It's been years. I need to ask you something. About my mother. And a man named Eduardo Ferguson. His shears clattered to the ground. Come inside, he said quietly. The church office smelled the same old books, weak coffee, the distant scent of beeswax candles. I sat across from him, noting the worry lines etched deeper into his face. Your mother called me yesterday, he began. She's distraught. Did she tell you why? Something about a paternity test, a man from the past. That man is Rachel's biological father. His hands folded on the desk tightly. And you're here because you suspect I knew. You did know, didn't you? His silence was answer enough. I counseled her, he finally said, when she found out she was pregnant. What month? September 1990. I did the math in my head. That was 3 months before she told my father she was expecting. She was terrified, he added. She said Eduardo was recently divorced, but it would complicate everything. She didn't want to lose your father. I told her to tell the truth, but she never did. No, you watched my father die thinking both his daughters were his. You let her keep that lie. He didn't respond. And what about after when she started turning Rachel against me? Did you counsel her then too? He looked down at his hands. Did she ever express remorse, I asked. For the affair? No. For what she did to me. For poisoning her own child against her sister. His silence filled the room like smoke. That was answer enough. Outside, I called Harper. Tell Eduardo everything, every detail. If Mom's already calling him, he deserves the full truth. You sure? Let her squirm. Where are you going now? The hospital. Rachel wants to see me. Be careful, she warned. She's desperate. So am I. Rachel's hospital room was darker than before. The blinds were drawn. Her skin yellowed her body, looking like a skeleton, wrapped in designer pajamas. You came, she whispered. You called. I stayed near the door. Where's Mom? Trying to reach Eduardo. She won't say the word father. Still can't face it. Did you really find him? Yes. What's he like? Sign the confession and find out. She reached for an envelope on her side table. Her hand shook. She passed it to me with trembling fingers. Everything's in there. What I did, what Mom helped me do, the emails, the fake photos, the research smear, all of it. I scanned the pages. The ink blurred as my eyes welled up, not with forgiveness, but with validation. Why, I finally asked, sitting down. Why did you hate me so much? She looked up, eyes glassy. Because you were real. The words knocked the breath out of me. Everything about you was real. Your work, your relationships, even your flaws. I was always pretending, living in someone else's shadow, yours. I stood unable to sit still. My phone buzzed again. Eduardo, we need to talk, about both my daughters. Dinner tonight. I looked back at Rachel. You told me you're dying, and now you've confessed, but that doesn't mean I forgive you. Will you help me now? I'll think about it. Angelina. Her voice was small. Were we ever really sisters? I paused at the door. No, I said quietly. But we could have been. That was your choice. When I stepped outside, another text was waiting. Mom, meeting Eduardo at the house. You need to stop this. Let her meet him, I said aloud. It's time she faces her legacy. I dialed Harper. Final act. You ready? I've been ready since the day they ruined you. The hospital waiting room was lit too brightly. It made everyone look like ghosts. Rachel had collapsed an hour after our conversation. Her blood pressure had tanked. Mom paced in front of the nurse's station like a caged animal. I sat calmly, Rachel's signed confession in my bag, like a blade waiting to be unsheathed. This is your fault, Mom hissed. If you'd just agreed. Don't start, I warned. Not here. A nurse approached. Mrs. Myers, your daughter is asking for both of you. Rachel looked like a fragile remnant of herself under the hospital lights. Tubes snaked from her arms. Machines blinked and beeped a countdown. I need to tell you something, she whispered. Save your strength, Mom said, brushing her hair. No, Rachel battered her away. I need to say this. She turned her eyes to me. I wrote you a letter. Shanice has it. Shanice. From college. She knows everything. I told her to give it to you if I... Her voice cracked. If anything happened to me. Mom stiffened beside the bed. You're not thinking clearly. No, Mom. I'm thinking clearly for the first time in years. The monitor began to beep more urgently. I'm sorry, Angelina, for everything. But Mom made me what I am. That's enough. Mom stood too fast, her chair clattering behind her. What I need is truth, Rachel said. For once. My phone vibrated. Shanice, we need to talk. Rachel told me things, important things. I'll get the letter, I said, already heading for the door. Angelina, wait. But I was already gone. Shanice was already waiting at the cafe across from the hospital, a thick envelope in her hands. I didn't agree with what they did to you, she said before I could speak. Rachel told me everything. How your mom convinced her you were the enemy. How they planned it all. Planned, I asked, sinking into the chair. Not just the research stuff. Everything. The fake affair, the sabotage. Your mom orchestrated the whole thing. She pushed the envelope across the table. Rachel wrote it all down. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was the truth. Raw. Unfiltered. Rachel's final words to me, typed, signed, dated. A full confession of their psychological warfare. Mom's manipulation. A legacy of destruction disguised as family. My phone rang. Harper again. Eduardo's here, she said without preamble. He's furious. Mom is threatening to go public unless you agreed to the donation. I laughed. The sound came out bitter and hollow. Tell her to go ahead. I'll bring the popcorn. The hospital conference room had been hastily converted into a meeting space, but to me, it felt more like a courtroom. The heavy blinds were drawn, a pot of stale coffee sat untouched on the counter, and the air was thick with unspoken tension. Rachel was wheeled in by a nurse, her body frail, but her eyes alert. She had insisted on being here despite the doctor's protests. Her monitor beeped steadily, a quiet reminder of the countdown we were all on. Mom sat beside her, jaw clenched, face pale. She looked more like a ghost than a woman who once ruled our home like a queen. Harper stood near the door, clipboard in hand, like a legal observer. And then there was Eduardo. He walked in with the presence of a man who had built a career on command. His salt and pepper hair, his sharp eyes, the way he scanned the room, it was like watching a storm, size up the damage before it hit. Let's begin, I said, laying out folders. DNA results, signed, confessions, photographs, timelines. Evidence of a lifetime built on lies. Eduardo looked at Mom first, not with anger, with grief. "Stephanie," he said, "how could you keep my daughter from me for 32 years? She flinched at his use of her first name. "I was protecting my family," she said, voice trembling. "By destroying mine," he snapped. His voice cracked like a gavel. "I had a right to know. You were married. I was divorced. You knew that. We talked about it that night." He stopped, looked at Rachel. The night everything changed. Rachel's monitor picked up speed, mirroring the rising tension in the room. "You told me you lost the baby," Eduardo continued. "I left for Phoenix thinking there was nothing left to stay for." Mom's mouth opened, but no words came. "You lied to me, and then you lied to your husband. Let him raise a child that wasn't his." She sagged into the chair. "I thought I was doing what was best. For who?" I asked coldly. "For Rachel, or for yourself?" I reached for the next folder, the one labeled Rachel's Confession. "Speaking of lies," I said, "let's talk about what happened to me." "Please," Rachel whispered, her voice hoarse. "Not now." "Yes, now." I opened the folder and began to read aloud. Mom helped me craft the perfect plan to discredit Angelina's research. She encouraged me to use Tatum. She even coached me on how to manipulate Lamar. "Stop," Mom interrupted, standing suddenly. "This isn't what we came here to do." "Oh, it's exactly what we came here to do," I said. "We came here for truth." I slid the letter across the table. "Tell them, Mom. Tell them how you turned us against each other like a game of chess. I never meant, but you did. You did it with precision, with calculation. You built your legacy on silence and control. You taught Rachel to lie. You taught me to disappear." Eduardo picked up the letter and read silently, his face darkening line by line. "You used my daughter as a weapon," he finally said, voice raw. "You turned her into a tool to destroy her own sister." "They're not sisters." Mom snapped, then gasped and covered her mouth. The room went still. Even the monitor seemed to pause. "No," I said quietly. "We're not. And now the world knows why." Rachel began to cry, slow, silent tears tracing down her sunken cheeks. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I didn't know any of this. About him. About all of it. But you knew what you were doing when you sabotaged my career," I said. She didn't argue. "You told Lamar I cheated. You faked photos. You burned years of my research because you couldn't stand the idea of me succeeding. Because Mom said you'd always try to overshadow me," Rachel sobbed. "That you'd make me look small. You didn't need me for that," I replied. "You did it all on your own." Eduardo turned to me. "And now you have a choice to make. Are you really willing to let her die? To prove a point?" I looked at him, this man, who had unknowingly fathered a daughter, who had missed every milestone, who had been erased from the narrative. "No," I said. "I'm willing to donate, but under one condition." I reached into my case and pulled out a final document. 3 conditions, actually. Mom lunged for it. I held it back. "First, you publicly admit everything: Rachel's paternity, the affair, the manipulation of both your daughters. Second," I turned to Rachel, "your confession goes to every journal and academic body that blacklisted me. Every single one. And third," I looked at Eduardo, "you get full access to Rachel, medical, emotional, personal, if you still want it." "You're blackmailing us," Mom's voice cracked. "No. I'm doing what you taught me, playing the game with the tools I inherited." Rachel's monitor spiked. The nurse rushed in. "Her pressure's dropping. We need to move her back to her room." "Wait," Rachel gasped, grabbing my wrist. "I'll sign. Everything. Just please help me." I looked at her, really looked at her. The girl I used to braid hair with. The woman who had tried to erase me. The ghost of a sister that never was. "You'll tell the truth?" I asked. "Yes," she whispered. "I'm tired of lies." "Then yes," I said. "I'll help you." Eduardo approached as they wheeled Rachel away. "You're stronger than I'd be." "No," I said, watching Mom trail behind the gurney, like a prisoner marching to her reckoning. "I'm exactly what they made me." Harper stepped beside me, holding the completed paperwork. "It's all here," she said. "The donation form, the confessions. It's done." I nodded, suddenly exhausted. "Let's finish this." Eduardo called out as I reached the door. "Thank you, for finding me, for telling the truth." I nodded again, unable to speak. Outside, the sun was setting, casting blood-red light across the windows. My phone buzzed. "Mom, I'll sign everything. Just save her." I turned to Harper. "We won. Then why don't you look happy?" I looked at the sky. Thought of Dad. Thought of secrets and survival. Because winning doesn't always feel like victory. The donation left me sore in ways I didn't expect. Not physically, though. Yes, my hip ached, My back protested, but somewhere deeper. A marrow-level tiredness that went beyond the bone. Like something had been carved out of me that wasn't cells but grief. I sat on my apartment couch, watching rain smear the Windows tablet in hand. The morning's headlines were surreal. Prominent researcher cleared of misconduct in shocking family scandal hospital. Confirms major ethics breach after paternity reveal. Long-lost father acclaimed surgeon discovers daughter after 3 decades. It was all out now. Every secret, every lie, every silence cracked open for the world to see. My phone rang. "Have you seen the retractions?" Harper asked, skipping a greeting. "Every journal, every publication that blacklisted you, they're groveling." "Amazing what the truth can do," I murmured, touching the gauze beneath my sweater. "Rachel's responding well to the treatment," she added gently. "I know," I said. "Eduardo told me." There was a pause. "Are you going to visit her?" Before I could answer, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Mom. She looked smaller, less like the woman who once orchestrated our lives like a conductor, and more like someone who had lost her orchestra. Her hands trembled around a leather purse clutched to her chest like a shield. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside but stayed distant. She sat on the edge of the couch, eyes scanning the room like it might judge her. "Rachel's asking for you." "I'm sure she is." "Angelina, I know I don't deserve forgiveness." "You don't." She nodded, took a shaky breath. "But I'm sorry for everything." She reached into her bag and pulled out an old photo album. The leather was cracked, the corners worn with time. "I found this while packing up the house. I'm selling it." "You're what?" "Eduardo's lawyer suggested it, to help pay for Rachel's ongoing care. And the reparations to you." I opened the album. There were photos I hadn't seen in decades, me at a science fair holding up a tiny trophy. Rachel and me as kids, both smiling before the competition, before the manipulation. "I destroyed something precious," she whispered. "Something that could have been beautiful." My phone buzzed. "Eduardo, Rachel's latest tests look good. She's asking about you again." "She wants to make amends," Mom said. "We both do." "Amends." I gave a humorless laugh. "How do you make amends for 30 years of psychological warfare? You start with truth." She pulled another envelope from her bag and placed it on the table. "This is my full confession. Not the sanitized version we gave the press. Everything. Every manipulation. Every moment I pitted you two against each other. What you do with it is your choice." "Why now?" She stood brushing invisible lint from her sleeve. "Because I'm tired," she said. "Tired of pretending. Tired of being the monster I became." She walked to the door, paused. "Eduardo's a good man. He would have been a good father." "Yes," I said, "he would have." Later that afternoon, I called Harper. "I need a favor." "Name it." "Come with me. I'm going to see Rachel." The hospital room was brighter this time. Sunlight filtered through half-open blinds, catching dust motes like tiny floating ghosts. Rachel was sitting up, her skin still pale, but her eyes clearer than I'd seen in years. She looked surprised. "You came," she whispered. "I did." Harper stood by the door like a quiet anchor. I pulled up a chair. Mom gave me her full confession. "I know, she gave me a copy too." Rachel picked at the edge of her blanket. "Did you read it?" "Not yet." "It's worse than we thought," she said. "The things she did, the way she twisted us." Her eyes met mine. "I know sorry isn't enough, but I am. And I want to fix what I broke." "How?" She reached for a folder on her bedside table and passed it to me. "I've contacted every institution that blacklisted you. I've told them everything." And her voice shook. "I'm signing over my trust fund to restart your research." I stared at the documents. It was all there. Notarized, legal, real. "Please," she said, "let me do one good thing." My phone buzzed. Eduardo having dinner with both my daughters would mean everything. I looked at Rachel. "We can't go back." "I know. We can't be the sisters we should have been. But maybe," she said, "we can be something new, something honest." I thought of the photo album still on my kitchen table, of Mom's letter in my bag, of Eduardo's gentle smile as he'd thanked me after the meeting. "Dinner," I said finally, "with Eduardo. We'll start there." Rachel's smile was tentative but real. "Thank you for saving my life." "I didn't do it for you," I replied. "I did it because it's who I am, despite everything they tried to make me become." As we walked out, Harper squeezed my arm. "You okay?" I looked back once at Rachel, at the bag on the chair, at the past shedding its skin. No, I said honestly, but I will be. Outside, the rain had stopped. A rainbow stretched across the sky. Nature's way of saying you've survived. My phone buzzed again. A dinner reservation confirmation from Eduardo. Sometimes victory isn't about winning. It's about walking away with your name intact. It's about choosing truth, not revenge. Grace, not erasure. I typed one word back. Yes.